corporate behemoths, Disney and Amazon, have just been busted for basically screwing over their own employees. And luckily, time to time, we will have a cop on the beat, keeping an eye on them and ensuring that they're not, stealing workers' wages and stuff like that. Now, let's start off with Disney, which just agreed to pay $233 million in back pay to its workers after committing California's largest wage theft violation. Okay, so let's back up and understand what is at play here. So in 2018, the city of Anaheim passed a measure known as Measure L, which required hospitality companies that receive tax rebates from the city in particular to pay a minimum wage of $15 an hour. And so they had to do that and also increase pay to keep up with inflation. Because the idea is, hey, if the city is subsidizing your business, you need to take care of your workers. Okay, so I think that measure makes a lot of sense. Now, it was meant to target Disneyland because Disneyland's workers had historically been treated poorly. So a 2018 survey from Occidental College and Economic Roundtable found that Disneyland employees reported high instances of homelessness, food insecurity, and low wages. Nearly 75% of respondents said they don't earn enough money to pay for basic expenses, with 10% saying they've recently been homeless or didn't have a place of their own to sleep. Now, of course, that is tied to low pay, but it's also tied to the fact that Disneyland is located in Anaheim, California, which is not a cheap place to live in. Okay, very expensive housing in that area. And so finding yourself homeless due to a low paying job in a high priced housing market is something that's likely going to happen. And so in this case, Measure L was meant to help protect workers and ensure that they were paid, a better wage, a living wage. And so to dodge Measure L, Disney immediately moved to actually end over $250 million worth of subsidies given to them by the city. But the company's workers argued that Disney should still be subject to the measure. So what was their argument, especially considering the fact that they were now rejecting $250 million in tax subsidies? Well, workers filed a proposed class action in Orange County Superior Court, pointing to a series of deals with Anaheim in 1996, under which over $200 million in tax rebates were granted to Disney to help finance the construction of California Adventure and a parking garage, as we heard earlier this week from May Musk. But anyway, Disneyland claimed that, look, that does not apply under Measure L, okay? That just doesn't make any sense, except an appellate court shot Disney down. They said that their argument was not a good one and that the workers in this case, through this class action lawsuit, were making a good argument. So the settlement will be paid to over 50,000 current and former Disney workers. So a lot of people have been impacted by this. And it covers from 2019 when Measure L took effect to the end of last year when the court fight finally ended. And the judge decided to side with the workers here. And this isn't the only Measure L this isn't the only L, I should say, that Disney has been dealt with at court, because the settlement was reached after Disney last month agreed to pay $43.25 million to settle a class action from roughly 9,000 female employees in California who accused the company of pay discrimination. And so there you have it. Two decisions that I think are great for the workers and hopefully will make the executives over at Disney think twice before they engage in violations of local laws. But you see stories like this all the time, Waz, because oftentimes if, like, let's say there's a governing body, like a regulatory government agency that sees that a workplace, the executives or the employers engaged in unfair labor practices or engaged in wage theft or employed child labor and violated child labor laws, usually they'll get a slap on the wrist, right? Like a little fine. And the fine does not outweigh the profits that the company made in violating the law. So I think that's a big problem within the system, but this is different. This is a class action lawsuit that we're talking about. and the workers prevailed, which I'm happy to hear.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the few times that you can say the actual system or, the government in the case of the courts actually stepped in and did the right thing for the people. Like, if anybody who's watching this show, if you've ever tried to go to Disneyland with your freaking family, you know how much money this thing costs. And it's, of course, is the parking and the tickets and, the fast pass and all this other upcharges and stuff that they do. But of course, it's like the merchandise and like these people are making money hand over fist. And again, if you've ever been to Disney, you know that there's, I don't want to call it a cultish atmosphere around the product, but it's cult adjacent in terms of the enthusiasms and the attitudes people take. And I would venture to assume that carries into the workforce, that these are Disney true believers who love the company,
Yep.
who love the product, who have been a part of it since they were kids, and feel a certain enthusiasm to be part of being part of the park and being part of giving this experience to Disney's many diehard fans. And that's how they get to take advantage of people, man. Workers coming in with a beautiful, positive attitude about the company, and the company going about rewarding them by stiffing them on pay. It's just typical, man. And again, like these guys these parks make a lot of money. Period.
And look, I'm going to keep it real. I want to make sure that people operating the rides are taken care of.
Yes.
And that they're happy and that they're focused on their job, right? Because they're the ones operating the rides, and they're important to generating the revenue, to generating the profits for Disneyland. And so the idea that anyone working full time in any job in this country should end up homeless is insane to me, right? All full-time workers should be able to afford a comfortable life. I'm not talking about a lavish life. I'm just talking about the ability to pay for basic necessities with a little bit of money left over to enjoy life a little bit. There was a time in America where we had that. But the decimation of labor unions, the takeover of corporate America through corruption and the legalized bribes that have been approved by our Supreme Court, Congress's ability to trade individual stocks, all of these things have basically chopped away at the policies that were protecting workers and ensuring that labor had a seat at the table when it came to negotiating things like pay, working conditions, things like that. And by the way, I don't think being on your feet all day at a park that oftentimes is sweltering because it's in Anaheim, California, is an easy job. It's a very difficult job. And so I'm glad that the workers are fighting back. And so this is a good update.